This is ready. Then we took about 20 seconds, Amos.
You going by the clock or your what?
Comic clock. Okay.
Joe, were you taking the public works proclamation?
Yeah.
Wasn't it Tuesday gonna come or no?
No, she's up. She's up.
There, okay, all right.
You good, Amos?
No, he reads it. You're just gonna accept it on behalf of public works.
Well, good
Yeah.
evening, everyone. We'll call to order this regular meeting of the Willow City Council for Tuesday, May 14th, 2024. The time is 6 o'clock sharp. Item 2 on our agenda this evening are a pledge of allegiance. And Lieutenant Roach, would you and your colleagues do us the honor and lead us in the pledge? Thank you.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Lieutenant. Item 3, roll call. Amos Hoover, please.
Councilmember Thomas. Here. Councilmember Sprague,
Here.
Councilmember Vaughn.
Here.
Vice Mayor Hudson is absent this evening and Mayor Hanson.
Here.
Right.
Thank you, Mr. City Clerk. Item 4, changes to the agenda. City Manager Marty Brown.
Yes, I would like to request that we move items number 8A and B up ahead of the public hearing and right after the consent calendar, and continue the item number 8D until the May 28th council meeting.
Very good. We will move item 8A and 8B just ahead of item 7 and directly behind item 6C, and table item 8D until a later meeting. Anything further, Marty?
No, there's not.
Okay, thank you very much.
I'm sorry, Mr. Mayor, we're tabling what items?
The item, we're moving item 8A, the audit, and item 8B, the preliminary engineer's report,
Correct.
directly in front of item 7, the public hearing, and we're tabling item 8D, the retail dispensary cannabis business, modifying the distance requirements to a future meeting.
Okay, we tabling that or we postpone?
We're continuing it
we're
to May
continuing
28th.
it.
Thank you.
We're continuing that item.
Thank
So to a future meeting. Any further questions? Okay, nothing further, Marty?
No, there is not.
Item 5, ceremonial matters. Item 5A, we have a proclamation for National Police Week. I'll read the proclamation now. City of Willows Proclamation, National Police Week. Whereas all of the promises America offers, none is more precious or elusive than the right to be free from crime. And whereas the dedicated men and women who have chosen law enforcement as a career face extraordinary risk and danger preserving our freedom and security. And whereas during the week of May 12th through May 18th, 2024, National Police Week is observed throughout the nation in order to recognize hazardous work, serious responsibilities, and strong commitment of our nation's officers. And whereas in conjunction with this important observance, the City of Willows is observing May 15th as Peace Officers Memorial Day in commemoration of those noble officers who have tragically sacrificed their lives in the line of duty. And whereas in 2023 alone, 137 peace officers across the nation were killed in the line of duty. Furthermore, it is recognized that 7 of those officers killed were California peace officers. Now, therefore, be it resolved, I, Gary Hanson, Mayor of the City of Willows, and on behalf of the Willows City Council and the citizens of Willows, do hereby proclaim the week of May 12th through May 18th, 2024 as National Police Week, and with special recognition of May 15th, 2024 as National Peace Officer Memorial Day in the City of Willows, and direct all American flags to be displayed at half-staff during this honorable date and week, recognizing the loss of these peace officers and preserving our liberty. Encourage all citizens to remember those individuals who gave their lives for our safety and express our appreciation to those who continue to dedicate themselves to making Willows a safer place in which to live. A witness whereof I have hereunto set my hand in an official seal this 14th day of May 2024. And may God bless my brothers and sisters who carried a badge and carried out their duties honorably, who paid the ultimate sacrifice. Is there anybody here to receive the proclamation from the audience tonight? Okay, thank you. Item 5B, second proclamation. City of Willows proclamation, this is National Public Works Week. Whereas Public Works professionals focus on infrastructure maintenance, facilities, and services that are of vital importance to sustainable and resilient communities and to public health, high quality of life, and well-being of the people of the City of Willows. And whereas these infrastructures, facilities, and services cannot be maintained without the dedicated efforts of Public Works professionals who are maintenance and field workers, managers, engineers, and contractors at all levels of government and in the private sector. And whereas they're responsible for rebuilding, improving, maintaining, and protecting our nation's roadways and streets, parks, landscapes, water supply, water treatment, solid waste systems, public buildings, and other structures and facilities essential for our citizens. And whereas Public Works professionals must frequently partake in an area of duties that are unsanitary and threatening to their health and safety, such as manually cleaning up drug needles and human and animal waste in parks and other public rights of way, unclogging municipal sewer systems and manholes, and removing belongings from homeless encampments and derelict buildings. And whereas it is in the public interest for the citizens, civic leaders, and children in the City of Willows to gain knowledge of and to maintain an ongoing interest and understanding of the importance of Public Works and its projects, programs, and services in Willows. And whereas the year 2024 marks the 64th annual National Public Works Week, sponsored by the American Public Works Association and the Canadian Public Works Association. Now therefore be it resolved, I, Gary Hansen, Mayor of the City of Willows, and on behalf of the Willows City Council and the citizens of Willows, do hereby designate the week of May 21st through 27th, 2024 as National Public Works Week. I urge all citizens to join the representatives of the American Public Works Association and government agencies to celebrate and participate in activities designed to pay tribute to and thank our Public Works professionals, engineers, managers, and employees, and to recognize the substantial contributions they make to protecting our national health, safety, and quality of life. In witness whereof, I have here in my hand an official seal this 14th day of May, 2024. And this evening, we have our city engineer, John, and also one of our very fine and talented Public Works members, team members, Matt, here in the audience tonight. So thank you very much. Would you like to receive this on behalf?
Joe will be
Joe?
Joe
Oh,
will be
Joe.
accepting.
Oh, Joe's the Community Development Services.
Community Development Services Director over Public Works.
So,
Yeah.
so I should probably call on Joe then. Yeah, sorry, Joe.
I don't know, Art.
Give that.
Well, you're so kind.
Come on.
You want to get on the action? No, I feel no need. I hear you.
Thank you, gentlemen, for all the work that you do, and it was spelled out in that proclamation. It's all there. That fun work. So thank you very much. We've got an outstanding Public Works team here in the City of Willows. We're very fortunate. You do excellent work and very proud of you. We have a third proclamation tonight, item 5C, Memorial Day proclamation, and we have representatives from a very fine VFW VFW group here tonight. Lieutenant Dan Roach is here representing as well. So it's good to see you, gentlemen, for attending tonight. City of Willows proclamation of Memorial Day. Whereas Memorial Day each year serves as a solemn reminder for the scourge of war and its bitter aftermath of sorrow. And whereas this day has traditionally been devoted to paying homage to loved ones who lie in hallowed graves throughout the land, having sacrificed their lives that war might end. And whereas, in tribute to these silent dead, it is fitting that we lift up our voices together in supplication to Almighty God for wisdom in our search for enduring peace. And whereas the Congress in the joint resolution approved May 11th, 1950, provided that Memorial Day should be set aside as a day of prayer for permanent peace. And whereas today and every day, let us remember the servicemen and women we have lost, and let us honor them by rededicating ourselves to strengthening our nation's promise. With love, grace, and reflection, let us honor our fallen fellow Americans, known and unknown, who sacrificed their freedom to ensure our own. Now therefore, I, Gary Hansen, Mayor of the City of Willows, and on behalf of the Willows City Council and the citizens of Willows, do hereby proclaim Memorial Day, Monday, May 27th, 2024, as a day of citywide prayer for permanent peace. In commemoration of this event, urge all citizens to join together in their homes, places of work, and places of worship to pray for permanent peace and to continue to pray for our city, state, and nation. In witness whereof, I have hereunto set my hand and official seal this 14th day of May, 2024. And may God bless all the men and women who have paid the ultimate sacrifice in defense of our country so that we may live in peace. Lieutenant Roach.
Yeah, you're supposed to be in there, Amos.
That's.
Thank you, gentlemen, for your service and for being here tonight. Be safe. Item 6, public comment and consent calendar forum. All matters on the consent calendar are considered routine and are approved by one motion and vote unless council members or the city manager first request that a matter be removed for separate discussion and action. Individuals wishing to address the city council concerning consent calendar items or regarding matters that are not already on the agenda are invited to make oral comments of up to 3 minutes at this time. And please address your comments to the mayor and council members and not to staff and or the audience. And as a reminder, by state law, the council is not permitted to undertake any action or discussion on any item not appearing on the posted agenda. First, are there any public comments in reference to the consent calendar this evening? Consent calendar or, okay, very good. Oh, please approach. Yeah, please approach the podium, and it's not required, but it is appreciated if you state your name for the record. Thank you.
Good evening, gentlemen. My name is Ryan Friesen. I'm the Labor Relations Representative from United Public Employees of California. We represent the General Unit and the Firefighters Unit. Microphone. Sure. Is that better?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm before you tonight to speak on the consent agenda, specifically item C, the reclassification of the Director of Finance for the city and salary schedule. Our concern is not with the change to the job or to the job description itself. It is more a concern with the increase in salary. It has been impressed upon us that the city has been in some dire financial straits. We have experienced that in the form of multiple payroll errors over the last 2 years. These errors have not gotten better. As a matter of fact, as recently as last Friday, the city failed to collect appropriate union dues and refused to remit dues to the union. When we have brought forward issues with pay, usually a calculation thereof, I've been told a number of times by the city manager that we are lucky to be getting paychecks. From our perspective, luck should not play into this. It is payment for services rendered. If we are going to continue to have multiple payroll errors, it seems illogical to pay more for a service that is inadequate. We would request that the city council pull item C for reconsideration. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much for your comments. Are there any further comments in reference to the consent calendar this evening? Hearing none, are there any public comments in reference to any matters not on the agenda tonight? Any matters not on the agenda? Anything? Nothing? Okay, thank you. Item 6, the consent calendar forum includes item 6A, the register approval. Consider approval of the general checking, payroll, and direct deposits registers. Item 6B, minutes approval. Consider approval of the April 23rd, 2024 meeting minutes. And item 6C, update to finance director job classification and salary schedule. Consider authorizing the city manager to update the finance director classification and salary schedule. Council members, questions, comments in reference to consent calendar?
Mr. Chairman, Mr. Mayor, I would ask that we do honor this gentleman's request and pull 6C for further discussion. And I'm going to apologize. I've got my appliances up as much as I can, but I barely heard what you had to say. I would like to hear it again. Maybe the clerk, is that up high
No.
as we can get it? Did everybody in the audience hear the gentleman?
Mhm.
Did this? Okay. I apologize. Got mine up as high as they'll go. Anyway, I ask that we do remove item C.
Mr. Sprague, I'm sorry, Mr. Hoover.
Speak up into the mic, don't speak softly, otherwise
Oh, I could hear him just fine, and I have challenged ears, so yeah. No, sure, yeah, well, it's unfortunate, yeah, I'm not sure why. Yeah, okay. Very good. So Mr. Sprague, you've asked to pull item 6C for discussion. Mr. Sprague?
Yes, please. And with that, if we pulled that, I would recommend that we, excuse me, approve item 6A.
Well, Mr. Sprague, first, I
sorry.
believe you asked to pull item 6C for discussion.
Yes, I did.
Okay,
I wanted to hear the gentleman again, please. A little louder this time. Yeah. Sounded like you had some good points, but I didn't pick them up.
Certainly. I'll try and, well, it's try not to
Right on the mic.
put your mouth right on the microphone.
there you go.
Wow.
There you
All right. I'm surprised thunder hasn't come down yet.
Next.
So what we are asking is for reconsideration of item 6C on the consent agenda. Over the last 2 years, we've experienced multiple payroll errors. When these errors have been brought forward to the city manager, I have on more than one occasion been told that employees are lucky to be getting a paycheck. From our perspective, luck should not play into getting a paycheck. It is pay for services that have already been rendered. As recently as last Friday, the city has failed to collect appropriate union dues and remit them to the union. Now, while there is an indemnity clause in the MOU, I don't think that that would spare the city from a future charge of union interference. It seems illogical beyond this, that we would pay as a city more money for a service that is continually making errors. The situation has not gotten better in the last 6 to 8 months. It has remained fairly constant. And if anything, I would say it's getting worse. We do not have a problem with the city manager's desire to change the job description for the finance director. However, we question paying more for services that essentially make us lucky to be paid. I'm sorry, did you get? Okay.
Fine.
So we are asking that you reconsider item 6C and take it off the consent agenda for discussion.
When you, if I may, Mr. Mayor,
No, thank you for your comments.
Thank you.
No, thank you.
I can't ask him but for clarity.
He was speaking under public comments in reference to consent calendar.
Thank you.
Any further, Mr. Sprague?
No.
To be clear, I understand that that is correct, that you cannot quiz, question, or otherwise dialogue with somebody under public comment. I have questions as well, but I also understand that's not the mechanism. So is there a mechanism?
The mechanism is to discuss item 6C,
Oh, there you go.
so we can discuss item 6C.
You could also have the city manager give you a presentation. That would be another
Right.
option.
We will, at this time, we
It was
will
all-
discuss item 6C. City Manager Marty Brown?
Thank you for the opportunity. So the city has been without a finance director for 4 years. And during that time, there have been a variety of different consultants that have taken on many aspects of that role, including Andy Heath, who's taken on many aspects and responsibilities that are congruent with the finance director, but that does not make him legally a finance director or obligated or responsible for many of the obligations that we have as a city. So for the last 2.5 years, technically, I've been the chief financial officer who's signed off on many documents that a finance director would sign off on, been very much involved in finances, risk management, insurance that often a finance director would do. And I've taken on most of those responsibilities because you can't have a consultant do that. I think it's been at a detriment for the city to not have a finance director for so long. And I think that the city really needs to have a finance director. Unless, we want to continue to use a consultant like Andy Heath indefinitely, which I don't know that Andy Heath wants that either. And so somebody's got to be in that role and play that role and take on all of those various responsibilities. And ultimately, the goal would be, and my recommendation to the council would be to start dialing back Andy's role in the city to some more very specific and strategic aspects, which we will continue to need some of his services, for example, with the prep work for an audit. That's another big heavy lift throughout the year that the finance department has to take on. In fact, ironically, the auditor is here this evening to speak to that, to this past year's audit. There's a few very specific roles like that a consultant like Andy, I think, will always need to have some role in the city because a 2-person finance department and ensuring that there is proper oversight financially of everything from payroll to accounts payable, from every aspect of a finance department and risk management and HR is an awful lot for just 2 people. So, but ultimately the goal would be to dial back a lot of what Andy has been doing for the last 2.5 years, which is essentially all the duties except signing off on finance director aspects, which only I can do at this point, but doing the work behind the scenes. So that's the ultimate goal, is to continue with a 2-person finance department, but be a finance director and a finance and HR specialist, which is the person that we recently hired as well, would stay in her current position. So that's the purpose of this. And tonight I want to just point out that this is a recommendation to approve an update to the job classification and the salary schedule only. It is not tonight to hire somebody or to allocate or authorize the budget for the actual position itself. That would be a recommendation and a conversation at the first budget workshop on May 29th.
Thank you, Marty. Any questions, comments for City Manager?
Do we, I do, please. I would like a little clarity on the quote unquote payroll errors that this gentleman was referring to. Can you add some clarity to what he was questioning?
Yes, there have been. He's absolutely right. There have been a number of payroll errors from FLSA pay that we've had to go back and make payments on. I don't know, I'm sure Ryan knows more specifically other errors that I don't recall. I just know the FLSA got paid very late, and that's been more than once that we've had that issue. Maybe other overtime that there's been errors with. Yeah, and I didn't have a finance department for 3 months, and I was using a completely 100% remote person. So we're still doing a lot of digging out and catching up from that experience from September, October, and November. And a lot of the worst errors were at that time, but there still are some errors going on, and we are still in transition. We're still using that consultant a little bit. If you recall, we hired somebody for 3 weeks, they quit, then we didn't have anybody, and now we've had somebody for about 3 weeks again. So there's a lot of catch up that has to be done before we can completely remove all of the payroll responsibilities from the person that we were contracting with since, I don't know, mid-September, when we no longer had a finance department.
He also made the reference to failure to collect, and I couldn't understand, collect the fee.
The dues, as you may recall, the council approved the former Willows Employee Association, WEA, to move to UPEC and be represented by UPEC, which is the labor representation for fire is UPEC. They would be separate. They're not going to be represented together as a group. It'd be two separate bargaining units. So they signed off, WEA signed off on having deductions taken from their paychecks. I don't know, maybe a month or so ago. They were supposed to start with the first paycheck in May, I believe, and it was just a simple oversight. It didn't get done. The previous dues were $1 a month by WEA, and the new dues are $23 and change, I believe. So we deducted the $1 and we just, like I said, it was an oversight. So we can't deduct something when we've already paid for the payroll. So I actually sent an email to Ryan and notified him as soon as I understood the situation with the accounting manager and said we could either deduct twice at the next payroll, or they could start being represented after the next payroll, which is 10 days, a week from this Friday. Or we could take it out twice. And I have not yet heard from him on how they would like to proceed.
Thank you. Just for clarity, if I understood you correctly, we're looking to actually create this position, recreate this position, but we're going to discuss the salary at a later date on the 29th.
I'm asking the council to approve the salary schedule, but how it actually plays out in the budget in terms of what the person would be paid would be part of the budget approval process. That's not part of tonight's process.
Very good. Thank you.
Anything further, Mr. Sprague?
No, I'm fine. I just wanted to make sure that this gentleman had thorough clarity with what some of the items he brought up. Thank
Sure.
you.
Mr. Budden?
I think I'm pretty good because just to repeat it, is that the question was the paying of money at this point in time. The issues, the unfortunate circumstances are shared with us to know and hopefully remedy going forward, but it's really the money, if I hear correctly. And if I also understand correctly, the money is not on the table at this point in time, other than a spread of a range of salaries for a position of this type. Yeah, and so I guess I have to think about that for a bit.
Thank you, Mr. Budden. Mr. Thomas?
Well, what I gather from this is the goal of having a finance director is to resolve those issues that they're currently suffering from. So this is a solution to a long-standing problem. Thank you.
Anything
So-
further, Rick? No, along the same lines, the city manager's comments wrapped it all up. That's exactly why we're discussing item 6C this evening. It's because of, the extreme short, staff that we've experienced over several years, especially with the finance department. It's been vacant for 4 years, and Joanne Moore is our still fairly new accounting manager. She's doing an outstanding job. However, before her, there was a previous employee who suddenly resigned. And as Marty mentioned, the finance analyst suddenly resigned after 3 weeks. And we have a brand new financial analyst who's doing a great job, Robin, who's been here for 3 weeks. So, and that's exactly why we're discussing this, in order, to correct those mistakes so that they don't occur again. And, it makes perfect sense in my mind to move forward and approve this matter tonight. And also the salary schedule is still below our local areas, City of Williams and City of Colusa, on the established salary schedule. And let's remember that recruiting an accounting manager was extremely difficult with the low salary that we offered. And we had to increase that, and it was difficult recruiting. It's kind of a catch-22, actually. So those are my thoughts, and I'm in favor of moving forward and approving this tonight so that those mistakes are rectified once and for all. And we have a stable professional finance department in place, and we have a good team here now. Let's keep moving forward with it. Those are my thoughts. Any other thoughts, comments? Okay. Any comments from the audience? in Reference to this matter, any additional comments? Okay, well, pleasure of the city council in reference to the consent calendar as presented.
Move to approve items 6A, B, and C.
Councilmember Thomas has moved to approve the consent calendar as presented. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Councilmember Vauden has the second. Further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Matter carries 4-0. Thank you. Thank you for your comments. We'll be moving on to item 8A at this time, our fiscal year 2022-2023 audit. We're to receive the presentation and consider approval of the fiscal year 2022-2023 audit presented by Smith and Newell Auditors, and we'll begin with Marty Brown, City Manager.
Yes, good evening, council. So the audit that Norm, I just call you Norm, so I never call you by your last name. So Norm of Smith and Newell will be presenting in just a minute is the fiscal year 22-23 audit. And I wanted Norm to come again and speak to the council. He's done this in the past. This will be the third audit that he has done for the city of Willows. I think it's important for the council to hear directly from the auditor on the city's finances and ask any questions that you may have. I think this year in particular is an important year given the city's finances and what lies ahead, as the council has heard repeatedly and the public now has heard quite a bit as well. So I think it's important especially important for Smith and Newell to be coming here this evening and presenting the audit. With that, I'm going to hand it over to Norm to present.
Thank you, Marty.
Yeah.
Good evening, Norm. Thanks for attending tonight.
I appreciate you just calling me Norm because
Very
that's,
good.
that's what everybody
That
does
works.
that. And that's
Thank you.
my whole life. Well, I appreciate the council for letting me come over tonight and briefly talk about the financial statements. I know that's exciting stuff and there's quite a bit of it. So I'm just going to hit the highlights and areas that I think might be of interest to you. If you have a couple of reports in front of you, the large one there is the audited financial statements. And if you would open that to page 1, it's got a burgundy bar across the top of the page. Once I see the pages stop turning, I'll start. What this is the independent auditor's report. And you'll see here, the first thing right out of the box is what is the auditor's opinion. After we did all the work, we're here and we started, of course, in Yuba City, pulling all the information that the city sent to us. And then we came over and spent several days verifying that those balances were correct and that they were in accordance with generally accepted accounting principles. It's the city's responsibility to prepare the financial statements, but it's our responsibility to make sure that those balances are accurate and that they comply with the, like I say, generally accepted accounting principles. I'd like to jump right into the page 13. Yes.
13 on the smaller document or the larger?
Larger document. If the council was to want to get a overall look about how the city is doing, these schedules on these 2 pages might be a very good place to look at for financial purposes. It doesn't talk about things, you know, how well the roads are or other things. This is just strictly financial. And you'll see, I'll just briefly, so to get you, everybody in sync there, on that left-hand column, it'll say governmental activities. And what that is, that's your general fund, and then that's your grants. And then there's some miscellaneous funds there, but that's what that fund is about, that column. The next column is business type activities. That's your water and sewer activities. And of course, this is the balance sheet. Now, there's two set of financial statements. This one is presented on what they call the full accrual method of accounting. Both financial statements are required to be presented. They're both different. This full accrual set of financial statements here reports fixed assets, fixed cash, accounts receivable. No matter how long it takes to get those receivables are recorded in this book. Loans receivable, those are recorded on this on this schedule. Debt, again, all your debt on the city has been presented in here. You've got things like retention and salaries and your pension liability. That's another one that people like to talk about. It's presented on there. On this second set of financial statements, when we get there, does not have all that long-term stuff. And that's why I like this set of financial statements. It gives you everything. Okay, the left-hand column or left-hand side there of the report is assets, less liabilities. What's left over is what they call net position. Now, if I wanted to find out, or when I walk into a governmental entity, one of the first things I want to do is look at that net position. That tells me, and compare it with the last year, maybe a couple of years. And is it increasing or not increasing? If it's increasing, that means the city or county is doing better. And especially compare that with inflation. And so with that said, you know, that total net position, last year, looking at the audit report, the governmental activities was about 3.6 million higher than what it is this year. There's a decline. The other thing that should note is on the very bottom, you'll see a line item called unrestricted. Now,
What, say it again?
it is unrestricted. And everything up above, you know, that net position, what's left over has been spoken for because it's restricted. It's for public protection. There may be something there. The public ways, there may be a street project that the money's been restricted for to be used for that, so forth down the line. And that has increased, that deficit has increased. It was a positive number last year. This year, it's right at 4 million deficit. So all that readily available net position is gone and it's in the hole. Business type activities, again, that's your water and your sewer. That's decreased about 10% this year, about 371,000. Overall, I look at this net position, there's been a decrease of about 15%, about almost $4 million. So that's down and dirty. That's the big picture here. Okay. Can we turn over to the general fund? People like to talk about the general fund.
Can I
Page
ask a
number?
question before you
Yeah.
move off that one page?
Absolutely.
So your statement of net position, from my
Yeah.
history is private sector. So
Yes.
balance sheets have a tendency to balance. And when I see we have a balance sheet,
Yes.
but the statement of net position, total assets 40,698,000.
Can I catch up to you?
On page 13.
Oh, I'm with you.
Total-
Yes.
Total.
Yes, I'm with you.
And then I look at the liabilities,
Yes.
and none of these numbers match to say the assets and liabilities equal.
That's right. Thank you for pointing that out. Sometimes I forget to mention that.
And so I'm confused.
That's not you're not the first person that has asked me that question. It does balance, but that was probably 10 to 15 years ago when they changed that. And they thought people were not seeing what this net position, they wanted to emphasize that is equity. When you had that next line down that balances with these total assets, They felt the Governmental Accounting Standards Board says they're not looking at this net position. It's declining or going up. So if you were to, I'll take you right through there to make it balance. Take your total assets, like you said, 40 million. You've got deferred outflows, which is another asset, 6 million. You subtract out your liabilities and your deferred inflows and subtract out your 22 million, it will zero out. It'll balance out. I check them every time before I turn loose of that thing.
Well, I tried
So you can get
14
the,
different ways to Sunday to try to come up with that number and I couldn't get it.
You couldn't do it?
So this net position of 22,600,000
Yes.
is more than the 19. Or, well, that's, maybe I should back up. What was that number last year?
I
22,604?
can give that to you. Just 1 second. It was 26 million, 608 last year.
Okay.
what
Basically,
page
the
is
three,
that on? The 26?
I'm looking at page 15 on the very far right-hand side. And it's 1, 2, 3, 4 lines up from the bottom.
26,608.
Yep.
So that compares to the 22,604.
Yes,
And that's the delta down.
that's the delta down. Yes. Another way of putting it, yes.
okay.
Absolutely. Okay. Is it all right to go to the next, the general
Yes.
fund?
Thank you.
You bet. Page 16. Now, I mentioned that there are 2 sets of financial statements in this thing. This is under what they call modified accrual. They don't let you put in their fixed asset, capital assets. They don't let you put in long-term receivables, not necessarily. They don't let you put the debt in here. This is just cash in, cash out. And any accruals that were received within 60 days after the year end, they're included. But if it was received 90 days after year end, you don't get to pick them up.
So in real accounting, that's cash account.
It's pretty darn close. And if you shorten this thing up to 30 days, it really is cash account. You know, I've seen people do that. The standard practice is 60 days. I've seen it out 90 days, but not very many do. Okay. General fund. Now, if you wanted to balance, you notice the general fund does balance. You got total assets, 2,493,000. Drop down here to the bottom. Total liabilities, deferred inflows, outflows, 2,493,000. And that one will balance for you. Different method of counting, different way of tracking all this stuff. Fund balance, this year, different terminology, kind of the same thing, 2 million. Okay. Prior year, that was give me 1 second. 2,442,000. So it has declined, that fund balance has declined about $400,000 from last year. And again, that's one thing a person can look at, which will tell you whether an entity is improving or not improving, is that fund balance. Okay. Declined, like I said, $404,000. That's about 17% decline for the 2022-23 year. Okay. If you would turn over to page 18. This is the income statement, statement of revenues, expenditures, and fund balances. And I'm just going to focus on the general fund because that's where the bulk of the activity is. Total revenues this year about 6,200,000. Last year was about 5,100,000. Okay, so they're up. a little bit.
5,000,001, you said last year.
5,1, yes, yes. Expenditures this year about 7 million. Last year about 5 million. So they're up a couple of million. Overall, you've got an excess of expenditures over in excess of revenues of about $784,000 deficit. Okay, so that, if you're looking at operations for the city, that's what's happening. Okay. You drop down and then there's transfers in from other funds for various reasons. And you come down, I mentioned there's the net line item, net change in fund balance. That's that net income I mentioned to you a minute ago, $400,000 decline in income. Okay. So you've got at July 1, 2023, that's starting out this year. You're starting out with about $2 million. $2 million. So you folks would know better than I would what's happening this year. That fund balance, there's not a lot of fund balance there. Okay. The rest of the report, if you wanted to get in, it's got the next section, it's got footnotes. They talk about everything that's up in the front. If you wanted to know about your cash, if you want to know about your debt, it's in these footnotes. And it's a good place to go to find out what those numbers mean up front. Further on back, you're going to find some schedules in there that gives you more detail on the smaller funds. Got all your big funds up front, but the smaller ones in the back. So if you wanted to, at nighttime, you need something to put you to sleep, that would be a good place to go. So, the other report, the smaller report, is called the Single Audit Act. And what this is the feds require all governmental entities that have currently $750,000 of expenditures or more have to go through a compliance audit. And that's what this is about. They are really fussy about what goes in there and how you present that thing. And if you don't do it right, they're going to kick it back to you. It's due in March 31st. And for this city, the big part of it was about $8 million in federal expenditures last year. The bulk of that has to do with those loans, the CDBG loans. Okay. In the back of there, also as part of this report, is required that if there's any recommendations that we came across, and we did, the CDBG loans that I mentioned to you, the city is supposed to monitor those loans and make sure the people that are living in that residence are the ones that own that property, that are responsible for that loan. You can't use that money and then rent that property back out. You've got to check on that. So it's got to be the same person, and the city needs to check on that. So you can get a utility bill. There's various things that you can use. It doesn't need to be too fancy. Reporting, we came across the city needed to file a couple of reports for these CDBG loans. You know, they have to report that I think it's every 6 months on that. Capital assets, you know, just kind of not a big deal, but on your depreciation schedule, any of you that have businesses, you know, they separate out the land because it's non-depreciable. The buildings are depreciable, and currently the land and the buildings are being included on one line item. So it's a little more depreciation than what you normally have. Budget, we noticed one fund and the expenditures exceeded the budget, what the city council had approved by about 15,000. The last comment had to do with adjustments. Whenever there's several adjustments, we feel that's a weakness, and you know, that means things need to be adjusted from the time we get it to get to the correct numbers at the end. So we push that. One thing you know, you'd mentioned staff, and that's one thing I can see it. Everybody is having staffing problems. You know, doesn't matter whether it's a county, a city, or what it is. Everybody's hollering, I need people, and it's hard to get them. It's really hard to get them. Been that way for several years. So that pretty well wraps it up.
Well, thank you, Norm, for the information. Questions, comments, council members for Norm?
Well, again, I'm private sector, so,
Yes, that's
Um,
fine.
and I've been here for a year and a half, and this is my second budget go around, and I'm still somewhat confused. Would you explain for me and for those in the audience and listening that may or may not know, your letter initially says the city calculated an appropriation limit of 13 million, and then you calculated it at 13 million with a minor difference.
Mhm.
What is the appropriation limit? What is its purpose?
Yeah. The GAN limit, you familiar with GAN? It came about, they limit, how fast an entity can increase their taxes on people's property. And that limit is calculated by using a population increase, and then there's an overall increase for the state. You multiply them together, and then you apply that to your last year appropriation limit. And if there's an increase, you could collect more tax. But if you exceed that, you have to kick it back to the taxpayer.
So is this property taxes
Yes,
only, or is it other taxes as well?
it's property tax.
Property tax.
Yeah.
So it
And-
only has to do with property. Okay.
Yeah, now, I just said property tax, but there's a few minor things. There's interest that's related to property taxes. You know, if that fund is earning interest on those funds, that has to be taken into account. There's some minor things there, but that's the bulk.
Well, I would think $1,300 or $313 versus on a $13 million calculation is pretty darn close.
Happy
Yeah, pretty
interest
darn
rate.
close.
So,
Pretty darn close.
okay, at this point in time, I cede the floor.
Yeah, thank you, Rick. Mr. Vaden?
Well, when we ran for the city council, and like Rick, I come from the private sector and I was on the Butte College Board of Trustees, and it took me forever to figure out where their money came from and how it was allocated and where it went. And it took forever, but I finally got close. We were exposed to concerns about the sewer. There was statements made about the sewer fund and its application, allocation, handling, and so on. Is there anything in your audit that speaks to anything irregular, inappropriate, or otherwise having to do with the sewer fund for the city of Willows?
I am not aware of any misappropriations, no. No, Well, you're talking specifically the sewer
yes.
fund
Yeah.
or water fund, it's
Correct.
in the same area, but I'm not aware of anything, no.
Thank you, Mr. Vaden. Mr. Sprague?
Yes, a couple of questions, and mine deal with the sewer fund as well, and I'm going to apologize to you. Would you please speak up? You're a very gentle man, and I can appreciate that, but
Yes,
on the sewer fund, I'm looking on page number 22 specifically.
Okay.
And it talks about charges for services, which I'm assuming are the sewer fees that we collect through either through the water company for the commercial facilities or through the state or through the city.
yes.
Excuse me, through the county auditor. So you've got 1,850,000 of change there. How did that compare to last year, please? You know?
I do. I have to bring last year's report, so helps me out. Sewer fees for that, just that first fund, the sewer maintenance fund. Last year was 1,482,000, just under 1.5 million.
1,482,000.
Yes,
Okay, thank you. So it has gone up then substantially.
yeah,
And then salaries and benefits. Now, are those, how do you arrive at that particular number, $516,960? Is that something that's provided to you by the city? Or do you actually do comparisons on, do you do the calculations based on looking at the payroll records, et cetera?
That actually is provided by the county. We get a financial statement from the county.
From the county for
Or-
this?
I'm sorry. I just came from a county 2
Okay.
days ago,
Okay,
from the city. They categorize all their salaries, benefits, and in the general ledger, they list it out. We, you take that number and then we compare it with the prior year. And if there's any variances, we look at that or start analyzing it from there.
okay. So how does that number, 516,000, compare to the previous year?
It falls under an extreme variance, so go ahead and look it up. It's a negative 412.
You're on that
I'm
other
on
page.
22.
I'm sorry.
Go ahead and see what yours says. This one says 435,019 salaries and benefits negative.
Yes, I've got an answer for that one.
I apologize.
Got to catch up to you real quick here. 22. Yes, it's 435. In the prior year, there was an adjustment, refinance on, I believe it was the PERS, some sort of loan. Andy is a little better at that than I am, but there was a reduction and that had to be offset against the payroll. And that's what created it. There's a big old reduction, big savings by doing this refinance. And
That was the pension obligation bond, I believe.
that's
Yes.
what.
Yes.
It's
Thank
what?
you.
I'm sorry.
Pension obligation bond.
Right.
Right. Right.
And then the last comment here, then down on a little bit on the half page or below the half page there, total non-operating expenses, $161,819. What would be non-operating expenses?
Can you say that number again for me?
It's a negative number, 161,819.
Oh, okay, yes. You'll see up of non-operating and be interest income that fund has earned, which is non-operating, and the interest expense that fund particularly paid like on debt. You know, any loans. And so that fund, that column, let's say, that schedule, earned 114,000. It spent 276,000. So that's why it's a deficit. It spent more than what was earned.
I'm sorry, I'm not following
Mm.
that at all.
No, no problem. The top number there, 114,000.
I'm not seeing a 314,000.
No, 114.
114, 114, I'm sorry.
Yes, okay.
Got it?
Uh-huh.
That was interest earnings
That was interest, okay.
earned,
And then interest expense, okay.
correct. The interest expense was greater than the interest earnings, and so you've got a deficit of
I see.
161.
So that would be, okay, so total operating revenue expenses. So we went in the hole. In other words, we paid out more in interest than what we collected for income and interest.
Yes, yes.
Is that not, I can't remember the page that I saw that on, but is that not part of our COPs or certificates of participation?
Yes, yes.
Okay, and it seemed like that was accounted for there. Is this a carry forward then? It seemed like that expense of the COPs, I don't remember the exact number, seemed like that was calculated on a complete different chart unto itself, by itself. Am I?
Now I'm catching up there. I'm not, they should be tying together there. If I could find the page that you're looking at, I'll be glad
Yeah,
to.
that's fine. Thank you. I'm done, Mr. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Sprague. Norm, just along the similar lines of questioning as Mr. Vaughn just asked, I I'm one of those guys. I spend about 3 nights. I actually read these audit reports late at night, after a
Oh.
long day, until I fall asleep. It takes me about 3 nights.
I knew it.
And you alluded, it puts me to sleep like a baby.
Yeah.
But anyway, I went through this and in your audit report,
Mhm.
there were no material weaknesses identified on behalf of the city of Willows, correct? Is that the way I'm reading it? No, you found no material weaknesses in your overall audits.
I'm gonna
Right.
double check myself before I
That's the way I'm reading it.
answer. Yes, you are correct.
Okay, I just want to make sure I was.
Yes,
That was my correct, I didn't want to assume anything, so.
Right.
And you did identify, and you alluded in your report out that there were some deficiencies
yes,
noted, and you spoke about those. So
yes,
the material weaknesses, those are the major errors. Those are what you do not want to see in a municipal audit report, a material weakness, correct?
exactly right.
And there were no material weaknesses that you or your firm identified in this audit report.
That we felt were material correct.
Yeah, very good, Norm. Thank
Right.
you. I just wanted to
Right.
verify that. Thank
Mr.
you.
Mayor, may I bounce back? I did highlight
Sure.
the spot. here
Yes,
that I
Mr.
failed to
Craig,
put.
yes.
Under utilities, we've got a total of 302,863. We pay PG&E and we do a true up at the end of the year.
Oh,
That usually is somewhere north of 195,000, south of about 200,000. So, looking then at this, comparing the previous true up bills, looks like we've got an additional cost under utilities of somewhere north of $100,000. Can you explain that? And maybe it's more than just PG&E, is it beyond? just
We
PG&E?
also play Clearway.
Clearway as well.
We pay Clearway monthly.
Okay. So between Clearway and PG&E, we're paying over $300,000 a year for utilities for the sewer treatment.
There was an additional true up bill for that because of our solar panels.
I'm sorry, Ken.
There was an additional true up bill from PG&E because the solar panels did not operate for a portion of the year, so that increased our PG&E charge.
Right.
So the true up charge was larger due to the panels not operating for a period of months at the solar facility. So
What I wanted to clarify was that number is inclusive of PG&E and Clearway.
that would be the total utility cost for everything at the wastewater treatment.
No other utilities associated with that, but that would be the electric utility.
I believe that's correct. I'd have to ask,
Okay. Thank you.
Anything further, gentlemen?
Mr. Mayor, I just want Norm to help us because this council has made a commitment to the citizens of Willows as a condition, if you will, of a sales tax increase on the November ballot to operate at the most efficient and transparent and honorable way with all the dollars, cents that we have.
Mhm.
And so this audit dated July or June of 23 becomes a statement to that reality. And so it's imperative that it be bulletproof in terms of what you do. And I know that there are disclosures and disclaimers and audits. There always have been, always
Mhm.
will be. But I want to be able to say to people that this city is operated as financially solvent and in accordance with accounting principles as it should be and any other city is. So that when we ask them to vote or to take on the sales tax thing, they know that we are going to utilize that money to stop that negative delta we mentioned a little while ago and move forward in a bigger, more positive way. So again, I just want to walk away from here, Norm, knowing your company believes and would state that we are financially appropriate, correct, as based on this audit and all standard accounting principles for audits.
these numbers are materially correct. I'm not going to tell you that they're perfect. That's just not realistic. We can't, yeah, it's expensive. But they are materially correct. Whether how efficiency, that's a relative term. And you could get arguments no matter what on that. I don't know how to answer that. Yeah. I can tell you in the finance department, 2 people there were helping us. That's pretty darn lean. No.
Anything
Yeah,
further, David?
No, I think this is a credible piece of evidence.
Could I just add something too? I think that people often don't realize that when the auditors come to town and they camp out for 3 days here and probably in other cities even longer in the city of Willows, that we don't know when they come in the door what random documents they're going to ask us for. Norm doesn't send me an email and say, now Marty, get ready. Here are the things we're going to ask you for. They come in and they sit down, and throughout the 3 days at various times, they'll be, I need to see this invoice from this specific date for this specific vendor. I need this time card from this date for this person. We don't find out until they literally ask us the question. This is part of the audit process. This is part of testing on how we're doing. I don't know, no one else knows at the city what we will be asked for, which is why I often tell the council and the rest of the city employees, all hands on deck in the finance department, please don't interrupt for 3 days unless it's crucial, because we have to find things immediately when they ask for it. And as I've also said before, the filing here at the city of Willows has not necessarily been historically the best. So sometimes it's more like a treasure hunt to look for some of those documents, but we do the best we can. But I wanted the council to know and the public to know is we don't have any heads up about what they're going to ask us for. It's random. So it may not be perfect, Councilmember Vaden, but I'd say we're doing a pretty darn good job considering how many people are doing the job. And I think that even Norm would say, because he's actually told me this, that over the 3 audits he's done, it has gotten better each year compared
I
to the
would
first
agree.
year.
Thank you.
The first one was so tough.
Yeah, it was pretty rocky for all of us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Marty. Mr. Thomas, anything further?
No.
Okay. Any questions, any public comments? Reference this matter? Okay, thank you. Well, Norm, thank you very much for a very thorough and detailed audit report.
You bet. Thanks for
And-
having me.
Thank you, Norm.
You're welcome. and Thank you for your presentation. Pleasure of the council in reference to item 8A, our fiscal year 2022-2023 audit. This is an action item.
It's
not a
an action item.
resolu-
I thought we were just receiving. It's an action item.
It's not a
It's a-
resolution, is it, Gary?
It's not a resolution, no, just to consider,
To
Presentation.
receive it.
receive,
basically.
receive and approve the audit.
Well, and I would make the motion that we have received and hereby approve the 2022-2023 audit as presented by Smith and Newell auditors.
May I offer a friendly amendment to that we receive and accept as opposed to approve?
What's the difference?
That would, no, I
That's
I
okay.
agree with you. I think that's more appropriate.
Second.
Mr. Thomas has moved to receive and accept
Yes.
our fiscal year 2022-2023 audit. Mr. Vauden has the second. Further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Carries 4-0. Thank you. Thank you, Norm. Oh, did Norm leave?
He
Yes,
did.
he
Norm's
did.
out of here.
Mary,
Norm is gone.
He
Mary
ran.
Hanson, if I could just interrupt before we go on to the next item. The sergeant from the sheriff's department is here to accept the proclamation, and there was a delay in the sheriff's department. I was wondering if we want to just take a quick pause and present that to, I'm sorry, Sergeant, I
Sergeant
don't know your.
Sergeant
Yeah,
Lemon. I
exactly.
figured that's why you came in, Sergeant. You just missed it by a few minutes. So, yeah.
Oh, you
thank
missed it by a lot. What are you
I
talking
understand.
about?
You don't want me to read this thing again, do you?
It's totally the council's discretion,
I don't.
but we might want a photo op.
Yeah.
Sam four can't read. Sam four can't read.
Break out the handcuff.
Send the dog in to take a picture so you.
Yes, sir. Thank you for coming down, and we appreciate everything that you and your brothers and sisters in law enforcement do for us every day. So, thank you. You're welcome. Thanks for coming down. I know how that is with calls for service and gets away with all kinds of things, doesn't it? So anyway, so, yeah, be safe out there, okay? Okay, moving on to item 8B, preliminary engineers report, landscape and lighting assessment district. Receive the preliminary annual engineers report as prepared by Coastland Civil Engineering and provide any direction to staff regarding desired changes, and consider adoption of the resolution of intention to levy and collect assessments, and set the time and date of the required public protest hearing for the City of Willows Landscaping and Lighting Assessment District. City Engineer John Wanger. Good evening. Good to see you, John.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor. Good to see you and the rest of the council as well. Tonight is the second step of a three-step process that takes place every year as required by the Streets and Highways Code. There's sections in the state code that govern these types of lighting and landscaping assessment districts. The district actually allows the city to collect money associated with maintaining streetlights and landscaping and new developments within the city. With this assessment district, there's 3 zones: Birch Street, which is Zone A, Walmart, which is Zone B, and the Basin Street Commercial Industrial, which is Zone C. And the Streets and Highways Code requires every year that we bring this report to you that takes a look at what happened last year financially and what we project the next coming year, and balances those out. It looks at operation and maintenance costs for the respective zones and all the revenues and expenditures. Also in the report, I wanted to point out that there was a council policy established a few years back that we should have anywhere from 10 to 20% annual reserve balances in each of the zones to pay for any unanticipated expenditures. So this, as I mentioned, this is a 3-step process. The first step was appointing the assessment engineer, which you appointed Coastland Civil Engineering on February 13th to do that. The next step, which is tonight, we present the preliminary engineers report and receive any comments from the council. Any comments will be taken into account in our final engineers report, which will come before the council at a public hearing in June. And once you adopt the final report, the information gets transmitted to the county and the county tax collector's office, and the assessments get put on the tax rolls and are paid with the property taxes for the folks that are within the lighting and landscaping assessment district. In the report, the council is going to see that the actual proposed assessments per lot in the budgets, as well as maximum assessments. The one thing I will point out about maximum assessments, you can picture it like a high jump bar. It sets the bars, at a high level. And what typically happens is every year the assessments balance, and they'll go up and down a little bit depending upon what the expenditures are. But we are not allowed to go above that established maximum annual assessment unless we put it to a vote of the people. That's the only way you can go above that maximum annual assessment. I'm happy to report that none of the zones are near that maximum annual assessment, but just so the council knows, we do have the ability to go up to that level if something were to occur without having to go back to the voters for approval. The other thing I wanted to point out is we are able to index those maximum annual assessments each year. We put in that they can be adjusted by the CPI or 3%, whichever is greater. During the past year, the CPI has been about 2.6%. So we are proposing that the maximum annual assessments get indexed by 3% this year. That's what's in the report. The other thing that I wanted to point out with this year's report, the proposed assessments for Zone A will essentially stay the same. I think they decreased by 38 cents per parcel. For Zone B, the assessments decreased by about $31.90 per parcel. And in Zone C, that will be increased by $357 per year per parcel. With tonight being the second step in the annual process, the council should receive the report, provide any comments to staff, take comments from the public, although this is not the public hearing, that's to be held in June. And if acceptable, approve the resolution that's attached to the staff report, approving the preliminary engineer's report and setting the public hearing as required by the state code. That is going to be scheduled for June 25th of 2024. So with that, I'd be happy to take any questions.
Thank you. Thank you very much, John, for your presentation and for your report. Council members, any questions, comments in reference to the preliminary annual engineers report?
Well, I do have one question.
Mr. Thomas?
The Zone C. Your list has only vacant lots. And Rumiano is in that, on that Harvest Drive. So would they not be under the landscape, at least the lighting assessment, but I don't see them on the list.
They should be on the list. I will double check that. I don't have.
I don't see them on the list unless it's under a different ownership name, but they all show vacant.
Most of the lots that have been established out there are vacant except for Rumiano's, and I was just double checking, it's California Land Investment Company. That is the owner of that, or excuse me, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. California Land Investment Company is Basin Street.
Street.
I'm not sure who Snow Mountain Properties is.
That's the number on the list.
Yeah. So Snow Mountain Properties is getting an assessment. I believe that is the owner of, I think that's what the
Rumiano,
property.
that's the
owns.
number that's associated with it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
they are
it's
debt-
5.5 units and it's a vacant lot's a half unit.
Correct. All of the parcels within the Basin Street get assessed for, when they put in the improvements, there is some landscaping that acts as a filter for water that comes off of the street, as well as the street lighting. And in addition to that, they also pay for weed abatement associated with the 2 large detention ponds that were constructed out in that area.
I just seemed, looking at Zone C, it said all the lots were vacant.
Where, can I ask where you're looking?
Well, I'm looking for it.
Good luck.
Page 20 of your report, page 207 of the agenda. Forty Snow Mountain property shows vacant ag residential.
It's interesting because we do get that information from the county, but you will also notice that, well, it shows up as 1 unit, 1 full complete unit. So overall, there's 5.5 units. I'll check on that. That's interesting because
Seems
we
like an
get fed,
anomaly to me.
that information from the county.
So Rick, your question was where it lists as residential vacant ag? on
Says
several of
ag
those.
vacant.
Right, it does. Yeah, good spot. I missed that. I didn't see that. That's supposed to be commercial.
Well,
I would,
the zoning doesn't really matter there, but how it gets charged, I guess.
Yeah.
Vacant or, but it's a full unit, so
but that was my understanding anyway.
that's my only question or
Any-
comment.
Anything further, Rick?
No.
No. Mr. Sprague?
I do, thank you. John, I didn't get too much into your narrative. I just looked at the big numbers and then the maps that you show on the last 3 pages there. So taking a look at Birch Street Village, you have a annual budget there of a little over $5,500.
Mhm.
And then I look at that and see the strip of landscaping that's highlighted by your hash marks on the map. And I've been out there and most of all that is weeds against the freeway and so on. So am I missing something that we actually do more out there on Birch Street using that just as one topic of discussion?
Yes, it also pays for all the streetlights
Street
and
lights as
utility
well?
costs. Mhm.
Okay, the street lights aren't highlighted on that. On your other maps, the street lights are highlighted. So that would make the difference then. You're picking up those streetlights on Birch Street as well. Or Birch, what do you call
Yes.
that? Birch Village. Okay, so it's not only landscaping, but it is the lighting that's associated with it.
That's correct.
Okay, then I take a look at Walmart. It drops down to $2,400 and some odd dollars on an annual basis, and I count 1, 2, looks like 5 streetlights that we're picking up there, but they, if I'm not mistaken, they do their own maintenance on what little maintenance that they've got with some knockouts for trees and that type of thing. So this is strictly lighting.
That is strictly lighting, and we do pick up for part of the signal on State Highway 162. I
Part of the
believe we
signal
pay
as
for
well.
part of that
Okay.
as well.
All right, that seems fair. Then I look on the last map there of Harvest Drive, and I see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, excuse me, yeah, 5 streetlights and just a little bit of landscaping on each side of that Harvest Drive. But that's a $27,480 or $408.
So
Um,
a good portion of the expenses in there is the weed abatement of the 2 large detention ponds, which are actually highlighted as they're dark on either side of that. They show up as
I'm sorry, I'm not quite hearing you.
a large portion of the expenditures within Zone C has to do with weed abatement of the 2 large detention ponds, which are on the north and the south end of that.
Right. Okay,
Um,
so that's part of it then, okay,
Correct.
all right. So that would be
It's
part
about,
of,
it's about $11,000 of weed abatement and about $3,000 worth of landscaping and utility costs.
okay, all right, very good, thank you.
You're
Mr. Bud.
Yeah, John, I need an education. So why do we do this? And why do we have these things to begin with? And if these districts have these commitments to maintenance and all the stuff, who does the rest of the city where there are not these districts?
Well, this district is actually known as a 1972 Act, Landscape and Lighting Assessment District. So it was enacted in 1972. And I'm not going to say that there weren't any developments between 1972 and I think 1989 or whenever Birch Street Village was developed. But a lot of cities, honestly, back in the day, they used a lot of gas tax monies for a lot of this. And what's happened is as gas tax has not kept up with inflation, there have been more and more cities that use these type of maintenance districts to help fund to maintain things like streetlights, landscaping. There's also another type of maintenance district called the 1982 Act district that helps maintain storm drain facilities. Like for instance, now the state is mandating certain clean water standards for storm drains. So with new developments, a lot of times you either have to put in bioswales and filters, but it's an unfunded mandate from the state to meet this. So these type of maintenance vehicles or maintenance districts have been cities' attempts at trying to keep up with and supplement what's already a shortfall with respect to what they had used historically.
Who does all this work?
Our public works crews.
Our people do it.
Yep.
So they do it
And
for free for the rest of the city and we get paid from these districts for doing it.
The 3 districts in the Birch Street, there's a small landscape area, plus we pay for they pay for the lighting bills associated with streetlights. In the Walmart area, they pretty much just pay for the streetlight areas, and down in Basin Street, they pay for both landscaping, weed abatement. But you're correct. I will say in Zone C, which is the Birch Street Village, some of the weed abatement will be contracted outside of, because they're such large areas, we can get mowers and different things in there. But that right now is maintained by, well, all of it's maintained by the city crews. There have been discussions when I was sitting in Joe's seat about potentially looking at contracting out for a lot of that and having things done just by contract services as far as public works, but we never had the opportunity to pursue that.
Do you know where the money we collect from these services that are performed by our city staff goes? It shows up on the income statement.
They are, I don't know where it is on the income statement, but they are restricted funds. They're only allowed to be spent for these expenditures. And so, for instance, if any given year, we have a budget of, let's say we have a budget of $10,000 to do something. And at the end of the year, we really only spent 2,000. Well, then in the next report done for this, it'll show an $8,000 extra balance. So when we calculate the assessments, we say, oh, we have more reserves than we really need. So let's use that to offset what the assessments are. And there's been years when we've been able to offset 100% of the assessments and go to zero. So these are supposed to be self-managing.
Fluid. Because I noticed there was, I know,
Fund 313.
yeah, because there was a big chunk of money for weed abatement. We're going to talk about weed abatement. I just wanted to see where it integrated into the weed abatement subject. And lastly, why are we paying for stoplights around Walmart on a Caltrans highway, on a Caltrans state highway? What do we have to do with those lights and
So-
why?
So when on street, whether it's at the Walmart or anywhere else, the state's position is the state pays for the lights facing in their direction and cities pay for the portion of the lights for the side streets.
Facing the city. streets, right?
Wow, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Who came up with that?
Help
Could we make it
State.
so all the
State of
lights?
Ca- State of California, David.
Thank you.
You bet.
Anything further? Okay. Great. Yeah, John, once again, thank you very much for a very clear and concise engineer's report. You outline, you spell everything out, in detail, and excellent work as always. And that was actually good discussion there for the audience benefit on why we have these zones in the Landscape and Lighting Act. So, but it's always good news. And, since I've been on the council, more often than not, the assessment for Zone A, Birch Street Village, decreases. And once again, it's a slight decrease, but this is an assessment that decreased by 38 cents. So that's a good thing. And likewise with Zone B, the Walmart, McDonald's, which is good news and actually kind of a surprise. And I completely understand in your report with Zone C, the Basin Street, with those retention ponds, which are large. And it's been a wet year, thank God, but rain and weeds, when it rains, the weeds grow. So, and a lot of weeds. I know Public Works is on it all the time, and I know Natisa is on those retention ponds constantly, running the pumps as well. So, and it's all a cost, and that's why there's a Zone A, B, and C, because of the additional cost and the extra amenities, if you will. So, thank you very much, John, for like I say, very, very good report. Any public comments in reference to this matter this evening? None? Okay, very good. Well, gentlemen, council, this item 8B is an action item. Receive the preliminary engineer's report and provide any direction to staff. Is there any direction to staff in reference to this matter?
Just to confirm,
I've noted the comment made by Councilmember Thomas, as well as for the Zone C, as well as the comment made by Councilmember Sprague regarding showing the streetlights. So we'll take care of that when we come back with the final report.
Very good, John. Thank you very much. Anything further, gentlemen? Also, agendized this evening is considered adoption of the resolution of intention to levy and collect the assessments and set the time and date of the required public protest hearing for the City of Willows Landscaping and Lighting Assessment District. Pleasure of the council in reference to that resolution.
Mr. Mayor, I'd move to approve a resolution of intention to levy and collect annual assessments, preliminary approving engineer's report for fiscal year 2024-2025 for the City of Willows Landscaping and Lighting Assessment District, and setting the time and date of the public hearing pursuant to Landscaping and Lighting Act of 1972. And that date would be June 25th at 2024 at 7 p.m.
Councilmember Thomas has moved to approve item 8B as presented, including the resolution. Is there a second? Councilmember Sprague has a second. Further discussion? Mr. City Clerk, this be a roll call vote. This is a resolution, please.
Councilmember Thomas,
Yes.
Councilmember Sprague,
Aye.
Councilmember Fodden,
Aye.
Mayor Hanson.
Aye. Thank you. Thank you, Amos. Matter carries 4-0. Thank you very much. Thank you, John. As
you,
always,
John.
drive safe. Moving back to item 7, public hearing. All matters in this section of the agenda are formal public hearings and will be acted on individually. Once the mayor opens a public hearing, members of the public may request to speak. When you are called on by the mayor, please state your name clearly for the audio recording. If you have any documentation that you would like to be distributed to the council, please give it to the city clerk for distribution. Item 7A, weed abatement declaration, public hearing for protest. Upon opening of the public hearing, listen to protests from property owners concerning declared nuisances and direct staff accordingly before we open the public hearing. Fire Chief Nathan Monk, good evening, Chief. Good to see you.
Good evening. Oh, that's really loud. Jeez. So this evening is the part of the annual weed abatement process where we I believe the April 24th meeting, you guys accepted the list of properties that we put on the list for needing self-abatement. This is the opportunity for property owners to protest the department's declaration of their property being a hazard. And then they can make their case to you as to why we got it wrong. You guys can make your decision, and then based off of the direction we get from you, we'll either keep them on the list or take them off of the list.
Very good, Chief. Thank you. Anything further? Thank you. Before we open the public hearing, council members, any questions, comments for Chief Monk? None? Very good. Well, we've now come to the public input portion of the hearing. This public hearing is being recorded and is subject to possible review by the courts. Therefore, all statements or remarks must be made clearly and distinctly into the microphone. If there is anyone in the audience who has any pertinent evidence or opinions or statements relevant to issues being heard, please step to the microphone, and although it is not required, it is also requested that you please state and spell your name for the record, and comments are generally limited to 3 minutes. In reference to item 7A, this is the weed abatement declaration, public hearing for protest. The time is 7:31 PM, and we'll open the public hearing in reference to item 7A at this time. Is there any public comments in reference to item 7A? Anything from the audience? Nothing? Okay. Well, it's still 7:31. We'll close the public hearing at this time. So, thank you, Chief.
Well, you know how to run a meeting.
Thank you. Anything further, Chief?
Nope.
Okay, very good. Okay. Moving on to item 8C now. Weed abatement
Mr. Mayor,
Mis-
there is a
Mr.
resolution attached to
I'm sorry?
that item.
Resolution.
Oh, that's right, because it's not on. the
Yeah,
agenda.
we amended the agenda and the
I have-
staff report.
I didn't
for-
get to
yeah.
do amended. Okay, that was, I brought that out. Thank you, Marty, for addressing that. Thank you. Thank you, Amos. There's a resolution attached to item 7A. Pleasure of the council in reference to that resolution. This is an action item, board.
Mhm.
Don't everyone speak at once.
I move to approve a resolution of the city council of the city of Willows confirming and declarations of nuisances as amended and confirming order for abatement.
Our Councilmember Thomas has moved to approve the resolution attached to item 7A as presented. Is there a second?
Second.
Councilmember Sprague has the second. Further discussion? Hearing none. Mr. City Clerk, this will be a roll call vote, please.
Councilmember Thomas,
Yes.
Councilmember Sprague,
Aye.
Councilmember Fodden,
Aye.
Mayor Hanson.
Aye. Matter carries unanimously 4-0. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. City Clerk. Okay, thanks for saving me, Amos. Now, since we're moving all over the place in tonight's agenda, we're back to item 8C. Weed abatement contract award. Consider awarding the contract for weed abatement services to the lowest responsible bidder. Chief Monk.
Good evening again. This year, as part of the weed abatement process, we went out and solicited bids through a competitive bid process to try to secure a local contractor for the weed abatement program for this year. It's the same thing that we do every year. We received one bid. It was from Robert Burke Construction, the same company that did the weed abatement for us last year. Package was deemed complete. It was reviewed by both myself and Mr. Betancourt. It was deemed complete. Looking at the some of the rates, they're actually a little bit less than what he did last year, which I think he just, once he got through the whole process last year, he saw some places that he could cut a little bit of fat. And so that's why we keep doing the competitive bid process to try to get the cheapest deal for the consumer. So with that, if you have any other questions, I can answer them.
Thank you, Chief. Questions, comments from members of the council who would like to begin?
I have a quick
Mr.
question.
Mr. Sprague.
Maybe you can answer for me. What we used to call Tops Restaurant by the railroad tracks there, and now Budweiser is using it. Bob Carter is using it for storage. There's a little grove of eucalyptus right immediately north of that. I've looked at some of the maps. I can't tell if that's in the county, if it's on railroad property, or if it's on city property, or if it is in fact Mr. Carter's property.
Yeah,
Right
so I've had some of the same issues. I honestly can't tell either which one it is. If it's railroad, the thing with the railroad is we're not actually able to put liens on railroad ground. So that's challenging. But I'm not sure if it's if that property line falls in the county or if it falls in the city. It's been a year and a half or so since I looked. I guess, is your concern the eucalyptus trees as a fire hazard?
Yeah, fire hazard and then appearance. As you probably know, I'm working with some of the property owners and business owners on that 99, historic 99, and some of the people have been doing some cleanup and so on. And I've been trying to identify and work with some of the people that are unaware that it looks as bad. But anyway, that one just sort of caught my eye, and Mr. Carter does not think he owns it, but he would like to clean up his building there, but he's also looking at that and saying, who owns that? Who's going to clean that up? So if I could ask that you maybe research that a little bit. see if
Yeah,
you
I
can-
I could look into it. I don't know if it would be something that would fall under regular weed abatement because they are like mature growth.
What I'm trying.
I don't think that it would fall under regular weed abatement as far as removing those trees, because it's mature growth, right? The argument could then be made that, you know, every mature growth tree that's alive, it's not like they're dead and down trees, right? If we were to go take those trees out, the arguments could be made that, oh, you have to start removing all of these trees as hazard as well. So I have to try to apply in my head equalness across, so where whatever we do to this property would potentially have to be done to that property also. And I think that would start to put us in a very, very dangerous place to start having to top, 100-foot trees.
Precedent.
It'd be precedent setting, but I can definitely look into see whose
Would-
property those trees fall on.
Yeah, would you please? Thank you.
Anything further, Mr. Sprague?
No, fine, thank you.
I wouldn't be surprised if those trees were on railroad property. Like you said, Nate, I mean, the city limits follows the tracks and you have the spur coming down there and, they're awful close to that spur, really, but anyway, so. No, thank you, Chief. And Joe Bencourt, our Community Development Services Director, didn't want to slight you, Joe. You're also listed on the staff report. Do you have any comments?
Nope, everything, it was a pretty simple submittal, so we reviewed all of it, made sure all information was complete. He's got an active business license, so other than that, my part was done and the submittal was correct.
Yeah, very good, Joe. Thank you. Councilmember Thomas, questions, comments?
We only had the one bid, right?
Yeah.
Some of it seems pretty high, 5 acres, $2,000 to mow 5 acres. $1,000 to mow half to a 1 acre parcel, that seems pretty tall. I guess there is risk and liability and fire and all the other stuff that you have to deal with. but That's the lowest bid, the only bid, right?
That's the only bid that we got.
Anything further, Rick? Mr. Butler?
Well, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I too feel challenged by the rate structure presented by a single bidder. I'm still struggling over the Lalo tree removal bid of $15,000. So I would like to ask people who do business with the city to please understand that we don't print money. This subject of weed abatement has been contentious many times over the last 2 decades. I have the highest respect for you two gentlemen. I'm hoping, and I know you will make sure that every effort is made so that we don't sit in this room sometime down the road and hear that this went that way and that went the other way. And And I can't anticipate what they will be, but you know some of the things that have happened. And so we are on kind of thin ice, if you will. We're in a subject that's subject to volatility. I would like not to go through an unhappy constituency telling us about our weed abatement program.
I definitely agree. Weed abatement's one of my least favorite jobs. You know, it's not fun, being the bad guy to the public. We try our best to do it fairly, openly, give people lots of notice when they call, explain to them what's going on, the reason why we do the program, all of those pieces. There is, I believe, 2 properties that will probably be coming back. I haven't looked at them in a while. We'll be coming back to you for separate approval because I have a feeling they're going to be fairly big. But do keep in mind that these costs get passed on to the property owner. They are sent a bill for the costs of it, so it's not just like the city's out money. And the staff time associated with this and the first $40,000 is also covered under grant. So.
Well, and I know it's already been stated, but absolutely everything we abate is within the city limits of the city of Willows. There's nothing that even leans on the county.
Yes.
Excellent.
Anything further, David?
No, thank you.
Okay. Well, yeah, Chief, yeah, obviously you didn't sign up to procure in the fire service to conduct weed abatement, but it is a
Yeah,
safety issue.
Got to take the good with the bad, I guess.
It's a public safety issue and
No,
Yeah.
someday we might ask ourselves, why are we doing this?
uh,
Might be
safety,
a better way.
fire safety.
I heard that.
Insurance ratings, ISO
Insurance
ratings.
ratings.
So just for the council's benefit, weed abatement's a very, 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 very common program that you see in cities all over the state. One of the big things that it affords us the benefit of, Willows Fire Department actually has an ISO rating, which is in the Insurance Services Organization. They're the national body that basically they rate fire departments. 1 is the best, 10 is basically having no fire department at all. And there's some weird ratings in there that have to do with water supply. But one of the large components that gets us our score is fire prevention and hazardous fuels reduction program. So actually in Willows, we're super lucky. We have a ISO rating of 2. And so by having an ISO rating of 2, our home insurance for fire insurance and things like that is much cheaper here than it would be, say, if we lived out. You know, this is no knock on another department in the county, but say if you lived out in Artois or Bayless or Orland even, our rating is higher, and part of that is the paid staff, and part of that is our hazardous fuels reduction program.
So our citizens benefit by lower insurance
Yes.
premium. We should say that more than once to people.
Yeah, it's outlined in the staff report.
Press release, how about that?
For the city of Willows to have a ISO rating of 2 is extremely impressive, extremely. We've got a fantastic fire department. And, like Chief said, the weed abatement's is all part of that component. But, let's not forget, it's also owner's responsibility to maintain their properties. And that's not being done in these severe cases. So, it has to be done for some people, unfortunately. And I just wanted to, make a comment or two in reference to Robbie Burt, his construction firm. Robbie and Kelly Burt are fine people. They own and operate a very highly respected construction firm as contractors. I know them. They've done work for me. They've also done work for the city recently as a contractor. I've used Robbie for some projects on the ranch several times in years past. But he does outstanding work, very fair. And like I said, he's done excellent work for the city in the past. And it is unfortunate there was only one bidder, but I know between Robbie and Chief Monk, I'm very confident that costs will be closely monitored. But there is an expense. There is obviously an expense to it, and he operates a legitimate business with legitimate costs and expenses. So it's all part of it. So I didn't have a problem with the cost breakdowns in the contract as submitted. But those are my comments. Are there any public comments in reference to this matter this evening? Any public comments? None? Very good. If-
Mr. Mayor, my
uh,
comment about the costs was not to impugn the integrity of the contractor. That
Oh.
was not my intent.
Nor any of my comments.
I'm not taking that.
Well, I don't want Kelly and them to do.
No, very
that
good.
We
very
thought
good.
they were
Thank you.
overcharging
They were
us.
aware of that.
Thank you, Rick and Dave. Yeah. Yeah. Oh, no, and I didn't, I wasn't trying to insinuate anything either. If you, I apologize if my comments.
I just
That
never
was
thought
not
of
my,
it that way.
that was not my intention. I'm sorry, gentlemen. So I just, and they fine firm and fine people and they do good work. So I think we're fortunate to have them bid. So with that, pleasure of the city council in reference to item 8C, the weed abatement contract award.
I'll do this one. Let me get the page. Mr. Mayor, I would like to move whereas the parcels listed and adopted by resolution were declared a nuisance and ordered to abate as of the council meeting of April 23, 2024. And whereas the required notices as set forth in section 39500 through 39588 of the government code have been sent as required by law. And whereas the owners of said parcels have had an opportunity to protest at a public hearing, now therefore be it resolved that the city council of the city of Willows held the required public protest hearing on May 14th, 2024, and hereby confirms the findings of the April 23, 2024 declaration set forth in resolution 16-2024, ordering abatement of referenced parcels.
Mr. Vauden has moved to approve the resolution attached to item 8C as presented and awarding the award contract for weed abatement services to lowest responsible bidder, Robert Burke Construction. Any further?
Second.
Councilmember Thomas has the second. Further discussion. Mr. City Clerk, this be a roll call vote, please.
Councilmember Thomas.
Yes.
Councilmember Sprague,
Aye.
Councilmember Bodden,
Yes,
Mayor Henson.
Aye. Matter carries unanimously 4-0. Thank you very much. So we're going to move item 8D, the retail dispensary cannabis businesses modified distance requirements matter, to a future meeting.
Question of the city manager. Do you reprint this or do we need to save this for the next meeting?
It'll be reprinted as part of the packet. Yeah,
It'll be part of the new packet.
that is correct. Yes.
Moving on to item 8E, Glen Groundwater Authority Council Policy Direction on Surface Water User Classification Definitions. This is to receive an update on the Glen Groundwater Authority Prop 218 process and provide policy direction on the surface water user classification definition option. I asked that this matter be agendized this evening for discussion. And the staff report, gentlemen, as you read it, if you have any questions on that, it's fairly self-explanatory, although it is a little convoluted with the way groundwater authority, the authorities operate in the state of California. As you recall at a previous meeting, there was consensus of the council moving forward with the cities of Willows and Orland to continue the same process for the next 5 years that we have done. And this is year 5 since we've actually had a Prop 218 process in place in year 7 of the existence of the groundwater authority for the city to cover the expenses as we have done on behalf of the citizens of the city in reference to the property within the city limits, approximately 1,800 acres of property. And like I said, City of Orland has elected to go with the same process. So some of these questions aren't particular to the cities of Willows and Orland in reference to surface water use, but we had a special meeting on May 3rd, and all 10 member agencies were asked to bring this matter to their respective boards. And the board that I represent is obviously the Willows City Council. Our director, Bruce Roundy, at City of Orland, member Orland City Council, is doing the same thing with the City of Orland. So we've, over the last 5 years, we've had one class for the assessment. A per acre fee. Currently, for the last several years, it's been assessed at $1.50 an acre, with a maximum assessment of $1.91 per acre. like I said, we've been at $1.50 acre. We're currently wrapping up our 218 process and getting very close to having a public hearing on the next 5-year assessment funding operations this summer. So this year we've gone to 4 user classifications. We've experienced some litigation in reference to some of the property owners within the subbasin who were actually a dryland, rangeland property owner. So we're moving forward with a little different funding mechanism, excuse me, this year. And the board is elected to go with 4 different user types. One being dry land, one being surface water user. So dry land would be obviously rangeland, that's mostly livestock area along the western side of our subbasin, along in the foothill area, and butting right up against the foothills and in the foothills as the subbasin wraps around them, according to our maps, our state maps. And surface water user, which are irrigators using surface water, groundwater user, with irrigators using pumping groundwater, and finally municipal water user. So I requested the municipal water user classification, which was approved by our board on the Glen Groundwater Authority. I'm very appreciative of that. So cities, the municipal water user only pertains to the 2 incorporated cities in the subbasin, which are obviously Orland and Willows. So each has a slightly different rate based on the methodology involved, and from the Glen Groundwater Authority, our charge is to protect make sure to protect our groundwater resource and to make sure to ensure that we reach sustainability of our groundwater resource in 20 years. And that's our charge, and that's what we are working hard to do. With that, we are encouraging irrigators to utilize surface water when surface water is available. So surface water, and I know none of you are in the ag business, or I'm sure you know things about the ag business. But the surface water is the water held back in the Central Valley Project, Shasta Dam, on the state side, which doesn't affect us, but Lake Oroville for the state water project. So when you see the surface water being irrigated in our area in southern Glenn County, that's water that generally almost always is coming out of Shasta Dam. There is some water also irrigated in the Orland Unit Water Users, which is not a member of our board, but they are a partner through East Park Reservoir and Stony Gorge Reservoir, which eventually flows into Black Butte, which is a flood control project. But anyway, it's all intertied, and we work with all of the different partner agencies involved. But as far as a municipal water user, the rates have been established. And if you recall, when I was reporting before on the groundwater issue, if I can find the page I'm looking for here. We have some very close ballpark rates established. So for the urban water user class, it roughly about 96 cents, 94 to 96 cents above the surface water user per acre, talking about above the surface water user charge. And the groundwater user charge, forgive me while I look for my document that I'm missing. Oh, it's here somewhere. Obviously, I have it. I brought this. This wasn't part of your attachment. I'm just want to reiterate here. The municipal water user, the urban fee is slated to be $3.74 per acre in fiscal year one of year 5, $3.93 year 2, back down to $3.71, 3 cents lower than the first year in 26-27, $3.82 in 27-28, and $3.92 in fiscal year 28-29. Like I say, just a little less than $1 an acre below surface water users. The dry land fee is slated first year at 61 cents, second 63 cents, back to 61 cents, 62 cents, 63 cents. Mind you, to be in the dry land, the dry land fee, they are only pumping water for domestic use or stock water, not irrigation. Okay. The surface water fee per acre is slated to be $2.96 an acre, $3.10 the second year, $2.94 the third year, $3.02 year 4, and $3.10 year 5. And finally, this is the big jump, the irrigated groundwater fee. Okay, first year $6.93, second year $7.29, third year $6.89, fourth year $7.08, and finally fifth year $7.27. Now, mind you, Willows and Orland are the vast majority of our residents obviously are groundwater users. So we're not in the groundwater fee. We would have been in the groundwater fee if I wouldn't have challenged this, championed this matter to get us into an urban. So with our consultant, we're able to sharpen pencils and get that down from $6.93 the first year per acre to $3.74, which was a win. A definite win. The different 4 classifications they're all different. We're all water users. We all use water, obviously, to survive, right? For all of our needs, not just irrigation. And that's where the de minimis user comes in, as the state refers to it, for anybody who doesn't irrigate cropland, ag land, and uses water. So those are the 4 classifications. I just wanted to present all the information to the city council, so you all know exactly what we're considering moving forward with the groundwater authority. We have a really solid board, dedicated board, well represented for our sub-basin, from the municipal side, from the agriculture side, and from the industry side. So a lot of work and effort and time and energy has gone into developing these plans. Also we have some outstanding consultant teams that have worked very diligently on all of these matters, who, with the water science, with the hydrology beneath us. So a lot of moving parts, but in a nutshell, I just want to give you a high level overview of what we're looking at moving forward. And was my question for you, if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them. But if we had reached consensus on moving forward with this plan, moving forward for the next 5 years, that's my question. And really, I want to make sure I didn't miss anything in the run-up. Oh, yeah, I did. So here we go. I just wanted to, give you the background on user class. So the question before you tonight, mainly, that was for background information, the user class information. That's what the plan is rolling out. That's the methodology we're using. So our Groundwater Authority Board of Directors has reduced our options to 2 in reference to surface water user classification definition options. Now, this is what I said doesn't necessarily apply to the city of Willows or the city of Willows. But option 1 includes parcels within the Glen Groundwater Authority service area that utilize surface water as a primary source of water when it is available, but may include conjunctive use. So by that, I mean irrigation water. So option 1 would be to assess all property owners that are within the boundaries of an existing irrigation district. Okay, which are the majority of our directors represent irrigation districts on a groundwater authority. If a property owner owns property, regardless of what types of crops are raised on it, option 1 would entail that those growers would pay the surface water rate, even if they're pumping groundwater. That's option 1. We eliminate option 2. And the second question is option 3, includes parcels within our service area that use surface water as a primary source of water, but may include conjunctive use. Parcels that are within the service district boundary of surface water district will have the opportunity to be classified in the surface water user fee if they provide information to our groundwater authority confirming the parcel uses surface water when it is available. It'll be a one-time verification at this time of the information, and it would be provided to the groundwater authority in order to be categorized in the surface water user for category initially. In other words, they have, the property owner would have to prove that they're utilizing surface water to get the reduced surface water. If they're not using surface water, they'll pay the groundwater pumping rate, the higher rate. And that is a verification program, and that will be outlined by the different irrigation districts. Will have their own processes in place in order to verify that information for the groundwater authority. And if no proof of surface water use is provided, the parcel shall be classified in groundwater user fee category. So there are a number of individuals, property owners and growers in irrigation districts that that have surface water availability with the irrigation districts and don't utilize surface water on one or more of their parcels. Okay, and that's what this option is to counter. This is my preferred option, and this is actually option 3. The majority of the board so far agrees with pursuing option 3 to be fair and impartial for all property owners within the subbasin. Moving forward with they need to verify that they are in fact using surface water in order to get the reduced amount. Now, I said that really doesn't apply to the cities of Orland and Willows. Well, it doesn't, because we're in a different classification.
So what is the cost to the city?
$3, and it'll be $3.74 times 1,743 acres. Marty, how many? I'm sorry. I didn't-
Is it, I don't remember, is it in Lisa's report that was?
It's
attached?
not. It's not. It's
Uh,
just under
It's
8.
three, so
Yes.
it goes up from $1.90, $1.50 to $3.74.
Right.
So it's
In year
going
one.
up 120%.
Yeah. And this is just to counter. Well, we're fortunate it's not going up to $6.93 because we are a groundwater user. I argued that and was able to get a win out of that. So it's about 94, 96 cents. It varies a few cents from year to year, up and down. 374 this first year, 393 the second year, 371 year 3.
And these will all be borne out by their 218.
Yes,
And we don't have a choice other than bill it to the individuals or pay it ourselves, which billing it to the individuals is cost prohibitive, correct?
yeah, we had a previous meeting consensus on, it is cost prohibitive.
So I think we just continue that and approve it.
It's all taxpayer money one way or the other,
But I think if, do you need a consensus from us?
just
or-
consensus. I just wanted to present our process to date, where we're going, what we're looking at doing, what, the direction we're moving in. And there will be a public hearing this summer here in this council chamber. Well, it'll probably be at the
So
Well, it
cost-
does have to
our
come back
cost
for
goes from like
formal
$5
action,
grand a
though.
year to
Right.
10 or 15.
I'm sorry.
Our cost goes from about $5 grand a year to 15.
No, right now it's about
No.
20.
It's like
No,
2,900, I think, something
Right.
like that, on just under 3,000 a year, and it'll go up to like 6,500 a year,
Okay.
something like that. But it
Yeah.
will come back for the council to take formal action, right? If nothing else, I mean, is that, I don't know how
This-
CGA works, but if
this-
nothing else, it'll be in your budget and you'll get to approve
Yeah,
it
this-
there.
this will not come back for formal action.
Okay. Well,
this
then
is-
I'll have to have Andy build it into the budget, and
This
that's
is
how
the
you'd
con- yeah,
formally
this is
approve it.
The only reason I brought this forward, we just for, to, lay out all the information for the city, my colleagues,
I appreciate
you know,
that.
with the
Yep.
direction that we're moving in.
I have a question, Mr. Mayor, since
Yes,
this is a 218 process.
Well, that's, okay.
Right.
We're following the Proposition 218 process. However, it is not technically a 218 process. This is a, we have outstanding counsel. We're following the 218 process just to make sure that there are no discrepancies in the overall process. There are some subbasins in the state of California that do not follow the 218 process. There are some that follow the Prop 26 process, but this is actually a water fee assessment a groundwater sustainability fee assessment, I should say. So we're not going to be using the term, and I've been using the term Proposition 218 process up until our May 3rd meeting when our council, who is outstanding, we're very fortunate to have her, has told the board that although we're following the Proposition 218 process, this is not a Proposition 218 process. It's a water fee assessment, groundwater fee assessment, which that's all.
So I
involved
think
with the
I
water.
understand what
Like-
you're saying, but your opening sentence says it is. So you have to change that opening sentence.
I'm sorry.
Well, I follow what Mayor
Right.
Hanson is saying, that they're just using it as a guideline. It is not a 218 process. The opening sentence of this document says it is. So we have,
It was a 218, it was being classified as a 218 process until the May 3rd meeting.
The
And
question,
This is based on new litigation, actually.
the
Yes, Mr.
question I was
Sprague.
going to ask and wanted clarity for anybody that's in the audience that's interested in this. This does not mean we as property owners within the city limits get to vote on this one way or the other.
That's correct. That was it. Yeah,
That was the question. And
yeah, the previous meeting, we reached consensus that the city of Willows, as the city of Orland has done, we were consensus that the city of Willows, as well as the city of Orland, would continue to cover the fee on behalf of the property owners to eliminate the unnecessary need for administrative fees, coupled on top of administrative fees, which would be a complete waste of.
does that mean
Money.
that the city of Willows gets a single vote in the 218 process?
There will be no vote for the city of Willows.
No vote for it all?
No vote.
Okay.
Yeah, the cities of Orland and Willows are not part of this, following the 218 outline process in this matter. So, and that's all based on the urban user classification. Again, we're following the guidelines of Proposition 218 process. Just to make sure that we do this right and it's done correctly. And there's a full engagement and transparency to all property owners within the subbasin. However, it is a groundwater sustainability assessment, if that makes sense.
So do we need a motion or anything?
Just consensus of the council?
I consent.
Consent.
We have
consent.
consensus? Okay, very good. Thank you. Counselor, unless you would like us to have a motion on this?
It's not an action.
Not so- Okay, very good. It is not. Yeah, very good. That was a test question. Good, good.
Right?
You passed, Carolyn. Okay, thank you, gentlemen. And thank you for your time. I just want to make sure that you and our residents were fully aware of what the Groundwater Authority Board of Directors is and has been considering moving forward. So with that, moving on to item 9, comments and reports. Item 9A, council correspondence. I have received no correspondence for tonight's meeting. Marty, you have any?
No, Amos, have you received any council correspondence? No?
Apparently, we have no council correspondence. Item 9B, city council comments and reports. Mr. Vaden.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you for letting us ride in your hot rod.
You're welcome. It's my
Yeah.
pleasure. My
Set a
pleasure.
new track record for purple
We'll
cars.
call
on
it a
the
hot
Lamb
rod. Is
Derby.
that a hot rod?
It was hot.
It was hot.
Yeah. I'm pleased and happy for the Lamb Derby Committee, because every indication, which is non-metric, was that it was a successful event, assisted by great weather, but everybody who ever knew in Willows was there. And that's what those things do in that park every year. We all meet, we all tell stories, and we all notice that we're all getting younger. So it was great. I was particularly pleased that Marty was there and in a booth, and Amos was there. And some of the council members popped in and popped out, and the material that she had handed out. So clearly, as we move forward, the visibility is another word, kind of like transparency, but visibility of all of us and especially staff in and amongst the public will only build trust and confidence and goodwill. And a long time ago, when we started this, the word trust came up. And I'm so happy that we're moving positively with the proactive procedure program to build that trust. So thank you, Marty, for spending your Saturday drinking beer with me at the fair. Oh, no, that's not right.
That was an iced Americano.
And let's see, I think that's it for me.
Thank you, David. Mr. Thomas.
I'd like to echo, thanks to the Lamb Derby Committee and to every citizen who worked on that. Every citizen who came out and enjoyed it. I thought the parade, the park was all wonderful, and it was a tribute to the lifestyle of what we want in Willows. So I thought that was great. The other thing is on Monday, yesterday, I attended the LAFCO meeting. LAFCO approved its 24-25 budget. And the cost to the city this year is $11,803.
I did see that.
That's it.
Thank you. Thank you, Rick. Mr. Sprague.
Yeah, nothing to report on anything particular important to the city that I did, but just to bring you up to speed, there's been some questions on my particular health situation, and I've gone through a series of studies recently. I'm pleased to say that my cardiologist reported back to me, and she, after a series of tests, she says, well, you're going to die, but you're not going to die of a heart attack. You're going to die of something else. You have the health. She said, if I didn't know you were 75 years old, I would have looked at your reports and said that you've got a heart system and a blood system of a healthy 55. However, not so good with my back. And I ended up with that eye infection that I cut some wood that apparently had some sort of bacteria on it that gave me an eye infection and so on. The point I'm getting at is my health issues are painful and skeletal. They're not life-threatening or any of that nature that some people are worried that I might just fall over while I'm talking to you, gentlemen. And I don't
Our
think
fire
that's
chief
going to happen.
left, so you can't fall down now.
I'm sorry, say.
Our fire chief left, you can't fall down now.
Down now.
He wouldn't help him.
Anyway, that's all a personal issue, but I just wanted to thwart any concerns out there about my particular health and so on. And some of it, we may be able to solve with some injections in my spine and so on. And at any rate, that's all I have to report. Thank you. I
Okay.
just wanted to alleviate any concerns that anybody might have of my physical health.
Thank you, Mr. Sprague.
Thank you.
Very briefly, I had attend the Glen Groundwater Authority special board meeting on May 3rd. I've already talked about that. I think I beat that to death. So just want to let you know. And along the same lines, I'd just like to, say congratulations to, the very dedicated Lamb Derby Committee. And thank God they're there, and they put on a great parade, a great event at the park. It was extremely well attended. Had a blast, had a lot of fun. After 2 years, it's been a 2-year project. After 20 years of barn rot in my shop, was able to finally had time to start working on my dad's. I lost him in 2011. His pride and joy is 1934 Dodge 4-door sedan, which is now mine. It's back on the road, and it's an honor to him. I put it in the Lamb Derby Parade. It hasn't been a parade in about 50 years. I had the pleasure of having my colleagues, council members Thomas and Bodden, riding with me, and it was a pleasure. Had fun, gentlemen. Thank you very much for riding along. And I know my dad was riding and looking down as well. My great grandfather bought that car new in 34, and then about the time he passed away, he gave it to my dad, Jim, in 1963. And after 3 years of, I was only 4 years old when he towed it in, but I can remember on the trailer, it was just full of, it was a mess. It was a mess. And 3 years of reconstruction, and he got it back. And so it's just good to have it back on the road. So thank you. I'd just like to publicly thank and congratulate our very own Tara Rustenhoven here, City of Willows, dedicated employee, fantastic person. Also Jill Tovar, Laura Roth, Becky Biggs, Rebecca White, Lisa Teeter, Colleen Carter-Watkins, Hillary and Donna Goss, Michaela Soth, and Ashton Flower for all their work in the Lamb Derby Committee. And like I say, the parade, the park activities, fantastic, extremely well attended. I wasn't able to make the pageant, but I heard that it was likewise a great event, and congratulations to Miss Lamb Derby and the court. And it was just a positive day, just a very positive, enjoyable day, and had a lot of fun. So thank you, gentlemen. Thank you for sharing part of your day with me. And with that, That's all I had. Item 9C, city manager report. Marty,
Very quickly.
I did not forget tonight.
That's great. Very quickly, in celebration of Public Works Week, we're going to have an open Corporation Yard event. A Public Works Week is actually May 19th through the 25th. We'll have to correct the proclamation. I believe it doesn't say that. It's last year's, we've got last year's date in it. So Public Works Week is the 19th to the 25th. We will have that on Wednesday, May 22nd from 11 to 1. Open Corporation Yard event, have a little charcuterie board open to the public. Come down and see some of the equipment that we have purchased since the last time we had an event like this. And especially exciting is to see all the equipment we still need. Thank you.
Is it on display too?
It will be, yes.
Mar-
It'll
Marty,
be towed in, right?
There you go.
I know, Marty, you're always very good about this. Could you send a reminder, calendar
Absolutely.
notices out to all of us for that? I definitely
I
want. The
unfortunately will
22nd
be out of
next
town
week,
and won't be able to
next
attend.
Wednesday? Next Wednesday?
Yes, May 22nd. Yes, I believe Councilmember Thomas said he'll be out of town. But
May-
I'll send you a reminder anyways.
What time again, Marty?
11 to 1, doing it at lunchtime, just a couple of hours and inviting people down. Have a little charcuterie and meet the staff and see what we got, and
That's
what
that
we don't
fancy-
got.
That's that fancy word for cheese board, right?
Basically, yeah, that's right.
Very good. Well,
Right.
congratulations. I mean, you know, I just, congratulations to our Public Works team. Public Works professionals for everything they do, and we got a great crew, and thank God we've got them. Joe, you included. So thank you. Thank you. Anything further, Marty?
That's it for me.
Okay, anything further, gentlemen, members of the council? Okay, moving on to item 10, a closed session pursuant to government code. Section 54954.3, the public will have an opportunity to directly address the legislative body on the item below prior to the council convening in a closed session. And public comments are generally restricted to 3 minutes. Item 10A, conference with labor negotiators. Government Code Section 54957.6, agency designated representatives are Marty Brown, city manager, and Carolyn Walker, our city attorney. The employee organizations are WEA, which is Willows Employees Association, UPEC, which is fire, and management. Any public comment in reference to item 10A before we move into closed session this evening? Anything? No public comment? Okay, thank you. The time is 8:16 PM and we'll be moving into closed session at this time. Thank you for attending tonight, ladies and gentlemen. Great, Mr. Mayor. Yes, absolutely, of course. Good evening, everyone. The time is 8:35 PM. It is Tuesday, May 14th, 2024. Still, we just reconvened into open session from our closed session matter, item 10A. The report out in reference to item 10A was that information was received from staff and direction was given to staff. Time is 8:36 PM. Meeting adjourned. Have a great rest of the week. Good night.
Marty, tomorrow at 1 o'clock, right?